Today's episode of Slotshotpodcast is brought to you by Terminix's Termite Inspection and Control. Are termites threatening your home? Here at Slotshotpodcast, we know how fast-paced, intense, and relentless termites can be. Just watch Miles Wood skate for one shift. If you suspect termites are building a colony in your home, contact Terminix today. Don't wait. Colonies can grow from thousands to as high as millions in days or weeks. www.terminix.com to book your assessment today.
Welcome back to Slotshotpodcast, a hockey podcast. This is a special one. Not only is this number 50, but Ross, what is tonight?
Our first ever termite selection. We'll be going through all the nominated termites throughout the history of the first 49 episodes of the pod.
Yep.
And we will be officially declaring the Slotshotpodcast first and second team all-termite lists.
Oh, can't wait. Excited, Army. I know you're excited. We got a full slate, but as we always do on the pod, let's check in with the boys, starting with Armdog. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well, Got to celebrate your birthday,
Appreciate
Jack,
that.
pretty recently. That was fun. We had a great night. And I'm excited for this episode. And we got a Hawks game after this, so it's a lovely setup right now.
We do. The boys are getting treated to a little Minnesota Wild versus Blackhawks 8:30 TNT slate on the Wednesday night. Rusty, how are you doing on the left? I know you're chomping at the bit for this All-Star or Termite show, but how are you doing in your world?
All's well, fellas. All's well. Ready to fire away. We got a lot to cover. Big termite episode, but kind of blindsided by all the news around All-Star Weekend. I just lost track. I didn't realize that Bettman's State of the League, State of the Union was always All-Star Weekend. I guess that just slipped through the cracks of the old mind brain.
Yeah.
So
Happens.
stoked here for the pod, and let's jump into things.
Just before, the big excitement around Chicago is it sounds like the Hawks and St. Louis Blues will tee it off or skate, and puck drop will be at Wrigley Field for next year's Winter Classic, which will be exciting. Bedard was all around All-Star Weekend and having fun, but in terms of tonight's show, we've got a busy one, and it's going to start off with a little bit of an update from All-Star Weekend, some big trade updates after the week of events. LA makes a big change in terms of who is at the helm, and then the Termite show and Saturday picks. Loose change will come back next week with our annual recaps of the NHL, as there was only a few games since the resuming of play here on Monday. But boys, the updates from the All-Star game. As you mentioned, Gary Bettman does give his big kind of State of the Union address here in the beginning of February, I should say. And it started off with a big one. It's international play in hockey again. The NHL announced that they will have the Four Nations tournament that will be starting next year instead of in replacement of the All-Star game, and that'll be exciting to see the guys play. That'll be between Canada, Finland, Sweden, and the United States, and then also the announcement of pro hockey players returning to, at least the National League players returning to the Olympics for at least the next 2 cycles, and potentially the third, with Salt Lake City looking like the favorite for the Olympics. And exciting stuff, as we talked about. I mean, we've wanted to see McJesus, we've wanted to see Matthews in the U.S. sweater. We saw Matthews in that kind of under 20 world team in the World Cup of Hockey. But it will be exciting to see these superstars finally face off, and fun happenings here in the Four Nations. Boys, what do we got before we get into the big details?
Yeah, I think a lot of people could shoot holes in this and say it's imperfect, but at the end of the day, this is a step towards best on best. This is a step away from all-star festivities, which we'll get into. I support that. That's all positive to me. I'm excited about it. The news that the NHL players are going back to the Olympics, looking backwards, right, in the rear view, it just makes me so angry that they ever stopped. But looking forwards, it's just positivity and excitement for, to me, what are other than the Stanley Cup playoffs, the 2 best weeks of hockey, and maybe the 2 best weeks of hockey every 4 years, because again, you're talking about the equivalent of all-star teams playing for, all out for their countries, 100%, and you're getting all-star talent competing for very real stakes that are major. And I've always loved the Olympic hockey. It's always been a priority event, and Again, this Four Nations thing, I think there are a lot of holes in it, but for me, universally, it's better than an All-Star game, and it's part of the bigger and better news about NHL players becoming rededicated to international play. So best on best is something that the players have really been pushing for. I think it's a huge step for the marketing of the game, and creating some of these super lines and like some of these top lines on some of these teams are just going to be ridiculous and incredibly star-studded. It's such a great opportunity for growth. So I'm over the moon about that stuff. And for all the people that want to shoot holes in it, I mean, I'm ready to start, shooting holes in your argument, because you're getting in the way of progress, and don't let perfect get in the way of good, is the saying. Mm-hmm. And I stand by that.
Army, what do you got on the Four Nation face-off and Olympic play, starting with Milan in looks like 2026?
I mean, it's awesome. I don't know how else to not be hyped up about this. It's like, even just thinking about the rosters, now there's actually something that's going to come to life. Like, I've seen a lot of posts in the past couple of years about what a Canada-U.S. matchup would look like, and it's getting more interesting. Like, the U.S. is finally building a roster that seems like they are close to competing talent-wise, and we're going to be able to watch this. Also coming in at a good time, because Crosby's going to play in these, at least next year. And probably the year after. Mm-hmm. I don't see a way Crosby's not on Team Canada, which is fun because there's this whole new generation of Canadian talent. Obviously, you have McDavid and McKinnon in their prime, and they're going to be playing with Crosby. I mean, that's going to be awesome. USA's looking awesome. We got, the Hughes sisters, but the Kachucks. We got a lot of siblings on this team probably. But it's super exciting. And, I get the Four Nation critique. It's like you're leaving a lot of the best players out, but it's still going to be awesome. They interviewed during All-Star Weekend Draisaitl and Pasternak about it, and they're like, look, do we want to be playing in that tournament? Of course, but why would we complain when we're getting to play in the Olympics, We're actually given a path, and a committed path. This is 4 years of commitment. They've said we're going to let this happen. And that's awesome.
To go off that, it sounds like the World Cup of Hockey will return. The Olympics, like I said, will start in 2026. In terms of the Four Nations tournament, it should be 7 games and consisting over 9 days, 2 practice days. It sounds like it'll be 1 U.S. city, 1 Canadian city, and I think there was a big one when Marty Walsh took over on the Player Association, that one of his key focuses was to bring back international play, and here he is delivering quickly into his tenure as the president, I think, of the PA. But no, it's exciting, like you said, to see these big names on these rosters, and I think it feels like the U.S. has been building something, especially through watching the World Juniors and seeing these teams get further and further, and then watching the Olympics in the last year. It's always been the college guys and a few pros that are playing either overseas in the last 2 Olympics for the U.S. team. So it's been tough watching.
It's been garbage.
It's been terrible.
It's been awful to watch in terms of international for U.S.
One quick point, because you bring up Marty Walsh and the negotiation between owners and players. I think this is an example, and again, I haven't jumped all the way into the specifics, and it's something that's a little bit less relevant near term than it is longer term, as far as CBA negotiations and whenever the CBA is up and how things go. But this seems like the NHL owners taking a page right out of the NFL owners' book. The NFL owners negotiate with the players, and there was something that the players really wanted that really didn't affect the profitability of the owners very much. And in the NFL's case, that was less padded practices. That cost the owners 0.0. Yet they were able to use it as a bargaining chip and get something in return for it. Nothing's given for free in these negotiations. So now you have international play, which the players are adamant about, which ultimately I think the owners were being completely, penny-wise, dollar-foolish, short-sighted about, because it's better for the growth of the game, big picture. They were looking at it as, sort of insurance exposure and the opportunity cost, or the potential loss of these major labor assets that could get hurt during these competitions, lower ticket sales, impact their teams. Maybe you miss the playoffs and you miss a playoff gate because your best player breaks a foot blocking a shot or whatever.
Well, even to go off that, I mean, the NHL traditionally wasn't able to advertise and use the content produced in the Olympics, and it's seemingly that will be part of the new deal, is that they will be able to kind of use the stuff to brand the National Hockey League as well.
Jack, a million reasons why that's complete bullshit is dude, there's no getting away from it. The international hockey is the calling card of the Winter Olympics. You think there's scores of people waiting to watch alpine skiing? Do you think alpine skiing has the marketability or the reach of the NHL?
In countries like where they're
Norway.
skiing dominant, yes.
In Norway, when they win every gold,
Yeah.
they love it.
1.5 million residents, right? It's the size of the,
I get what you're saying.
Trenton,
It's
New
just
Jersey metro.
the
area.
NHL is, as many major sports leagues operate,
My
they're not going
point
to do
is-
something without making a buck or making something influential towards them.
So my point is they had their heels dug in on some of those marginal benefit areas, and they were looking at the big picture risk stuff, when in reality, it's all a net positive. Even if they didn't make the direct money off of it, it's still exposing their game, their sport, their league
Correct.
completely. And so for the owners, it's a win-win. My question is just keep an eye out for this thing that the players want that's really kind of a passion project for them. Frankly, dollars, like as far as dollars and cents, going to the Olympics is something that the owners should be lobbying the players to do.
Yeah, no,
It's
makes
expanding
sense, yeah.
the schedule 2 weeks. All right. And there are ways that that's adding money to the owners that isn't necessarily going right back to the players. Players are doing that just for pride. And that's part of what makes hockey so great. But I'm just skeptical and nervous about what that could mean in long-term labor communications.
Sure,
And that
but
wasn't
this
even
is
an agenda
good.
topic,
Also, when
but-
you look back at like some of like the key moments in hockey history, a lot of it is international play. Like we talk about Stanley Cup playoffs being awesome, they are. But think about like if you think of like top 10 hockey moments, a lot of them are international play, and that's just awesome because those are like key moments that like grow fan bases substantially, right? Like people remember that Crosby goal more than a lot of Stanley Cup winning goals. You know, that goal from Iginla is just like an iconic goal. People still talk about the Summit Series.
You're referencing
We're not-
2010
Summit
Vancouver.
Series, Miracle on Ice.
There's
the
just-
Canada Cup.
Oh, Miracle on Ice was before the professionals were.
But
were
that's
there.
irrelevant.
The
I mean,
Oshie
that's not
shootout.
what Yeah.
You know how many people watch that Oshie shootout were so
Still.
fired up about
TJ
it?
Still
Sochi.
do.
Now, one thing I will say,
The
just-
the entire country of Czech Republic, when they beat Canada in a shootout,
It's
and Gretzky
awesome.
didn't shoot.
It's awesome. Now, the one thing I will say that is unfortunate, and I don't know if it will change. We'll see. Russia's probably not going to be playing this next Olympics, and I find Team Russia to be one of the most intriguing teams every year because they have their KHL products, which they will force into that lineup. Even if they have a better team of full NHL players, they want some KHL guys in there. A little bit disappointing that they won't likely be there, just because it's always an interesting team, you know,
Yeah.
and they're good.
And like the Russian hockey community, they're just victims too here, right? Like they're
Totally. It's
caught in the
unfortunate
crossfire
for
of
them.
international politics and this and that. And so like, I just wanted to get that. That was a major obstacle they decided to just avoid for
Yeah.
the short term.
And-
And I can't blame them for that because that's the fastest way to get something done. is
But
just
also
to
for the
avoid that.
Olympics, it's not the NHL's decision if Russia's going to play. You know, it's an
double
Olympic
IHF.
decision. Yeah. So like if they let them play, they let them play. It doesn't matter to the NHL. You know, those guys can go play if they're allowed to.
True. But they are noticeably like they're probably the fifth team out of the Big Four.
No,
I
And
think
then
they would have been in the
and then
Big
Czech
Four.
and Germany and Swiss, Czech,
But
Germany.
they probably would have been in the Big Four.
Their
Latvia.
little entrance into the world of hockey. You know,
Because
it's-
Gergensen's getting in there. But my point is, I'm with you. I think like Russian hockey on the international stage is missed. It's leaving a hole there, and there's no two ways
It's always
around
exciting.
it. There's no two
We
ways
also
around
like if in some way they get to play in the Olympics, the next Olympics, we could see a pretty cool Matvei Michkov debut
It's-
combined with Slovechkin like send off. I don't know. Like there's a lot of cool things that could come, but there's nothing really that we can do or anyone.
If we could wave a
the hockey
geopolitical
world.
wand and just focus on the hockey, I think we would have an Olympic team that's all of the former Soviet Union states.
It would be very interesting.
Because that would be a team on the level with USA, Canada, Sweden, Finland.
Well, I think if there was no political aspects, Russia would have been the fourth team in behind Sweden. I'm pretty confident Finland would not have made it.
I don't know. Sweden
For the
Finland,
Big Four, I would say Russia's clearly ahead of Finland.
how? Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I don't know. I mean, that's a.
Russia
I don't
would
know.
have been in that.
I don't know.
tournament,
I don't know. To be honest with you, recent history, and I don't have the data to back this up. Finland wins a lot more
Agreed. That's
international
where I'm-
games.
oh, yeah.
They
Sure.
play a much more winning style of hockey than these Russia teams usually
Russia
do.
is a more interesting add to that group of four.
Don't
Russia,
disagree.
Russia is a fun matchup for everyone.
Exciting, exciting international play on the horizon, which we all could say we're all excited about. Quick little update. I fooled the boys. I said it was more positive than it actually looks like. But the update from the desert, another part from Matty Walsh was that the deadlines have passed. This needs
Marty.
to be solved, and this needs to be fixed quickly as they come into their second year at the Mullet Arena in a kind of temporary place for the Arizona Coyotes. And as ownership kind of came after the press conference that was given by Gary Bettman, that the clock's ticking, and they're hopeful that maybe an answer could come this weekend, if not next. But they're saying in the next several weeks the future of the Arizona Coyotes needs to be determined if it's going to stay in Arizona. And looking at it, we know Bettman has fought hard and tooth and nail for a team in Arizona, but it looks like we could be at potentially the red zone of the Yotes leaving, and I'll give you the future cities that could be a potential winner.
Well, Jack, I'm sorry to do this, but just to consolidate that news update, Marty Walsh just came out in his version of Bettman's State of the Union and had very strong words to say, like, this is a joke. Our players deserve better, yada, yada, blasting against Mullet Arena, the NHL essentially enabling a franchise to hang around in the greater, Phoenix, Glendale, Scottsdale area, instead of taking stronger action to get them back into an NHL arena. On the ownership side and through like Bettman, this is all about like a leverage play and trying to get cities to pay for stadiums and figuring out a kind of public-private sector deal. But Marty Walsh did come out firing about the stadium, which I don't understand why he's so hot under the collar about it. I don't really get what players would be most outraged about.
They don't have NHL facilities. So it's an NHL team that is subject to the schedule. They make the money, they have the broadcasting. They don't get they get college facilities. So for the players union to look at that, they say, look, we don't have a professional training room in this place. We don't have professional locker rooms. We're sharing a fucking stadium with the college team. That's not okay. Also for the players, like, you want to play in front of like a bigger stadium. You're in the NHL maybe.
Or you'd maybe rather play on a college campus.
But it's just a bad look, dude. It's a bad look.
It is a bad look, and I think
it's a joke. Like, no other professional sports league. Like, this is like almost as bad as like the Raiders playing at the Oakland Coliseum. When they were getting trashed into like dirt because the baseball field was there. It's a horrible look.
Many forget there were a handful of teams that played on baseball outfields as recently as 2004 or 5.
Yeah, exactly. That's a big 20 years.
But still, I mean, you haven't
having new stadiums.
Looking at when do you look at schools? Yes, in college football, I think the latest team I could think of was the Minnesota Vikings moved into the University of Minnesota's facilities for I think a year or two as they built the U.S.
Bank.
Well,
they awaited one of the best stadiums in the world.
Exactly. Well,
they should play outdoors.
It's one of the best stadiums in the world.
It's a pretty stadium. There's no question about that. But Arizona, as they moved in, like we said, this is their second season. It was pretty much said, you need to have a kind of a plan here in place. And, as those comments came out from both the commissioner and Marty Walsh.
He's beating his war drum, and he's basically like, he's rabble rousing and putting more pressure on the ownership group to solve that.
Correct.
thing.
And, the options have been aplenty. It doesn't sound like Phoenix Suns owner Matt Ishba has any interest in trying to buy the team. It does sound like through Arizona's media that they are investigating and very seriously considering one piece of land, but the cities that have come into question and come into
are we a commercial real estate podcast now?
No, I'm switching over to potential expansion side of things if things aren't solved, is because Bettman also at his All-Star State of the Union was asked about expansion, and it sounds like now recently after meeting with the governor of Utah that the Salt Lake City is now potentially of an option, as they do have a big building there in Salt Lake. But the big cities that have been talked about are now Houston, Atlanta, Cincinnati, Kansas City, and potentially Omaha, Nebraska.
It'd be interesting.
So the big cities that are being talked about, and Bettman kind of said we're always taking in inquiries, and if you want to submit an application, here's the deadline, and that they'll consider expansion or potential relocation. But the clock's ticking on the Coyotes, and it's interesting to see what happens here in the desert.
Well, quickly on the Coyotes, but like expansion, there's a reason they're not saying we're going to relocate the Coyotes, and why they're talking about those new cities. Salt Lake City's trying to push themselves as a relocation plan because they know it's an easier path. They want Arizona to have a pro team. Arizona's kind of a budding hockey market. I know it's not ever going to be one of these blue blood, like East Coast, Midwest settings, but there's a lot of young players who have come from Arizona. Mm-hmm. They have a youth program growing. They have the Sun Devils there. Like they're kind of becoming in terms of Southern teams, a decently strong hockey market. Mm-hmm. They need to find. There's literally an old stadium that's being unused in downtown Phoenix. I don't know what's going on there.
They've already defaulted on their lease there. I don't know if that's an option
It's
anymore.
just it's ridiculous whatever's going on there.
No,
But they're not a relocation. I don't think they're a relocation piece for like another couple of years.
Well, and I mean, I think it's shorter than that. I think the NHL is finally, I think, starting to say enough is enough, and we need solutions here quickly, and so it'll be definitely an interesting
They just
story
want a
to
team
keep an
there,
eye.
and they should
keep an
want
eye
a team
on.
there.
I think you guys are overthinking this completely. I think it's so obvious and simple and straightforward.
We know where you lay on this one.
Well, no, very seriously. All I've learned about this stuff in the last year as the expansion, like
It's a
first of all,
carousel. At this point, sorry, continue. All right.
in what world are more than 32 teams in a Big Four North American setup? In what world?
None.
So, what have we learned in the last year? Well, the NHL is only in 25 American markets. There's room for another 7 American markets in there. And it's all this bullshit about the owners recouping money lost from the COVID event to try to build this growth. They saw a couple teams got bought. They're seeing the valuations that are through the roof universally across the world, across all the big money, high stakes money people. They all look at pro sports teams. They're like, honestly, man, you buy a pro sports team, you don't lose money anymore. It used to be a very risky investment, especially hockey in the 70s, 80s, those years of expansion. Now it's a pretty well-structured setup where it's you buy one of these teams, it's only going to appreciate in value. You look at all of the recent sports sales, and it's crazy. My Boston Red Sox are about to be, part of this in the next couple of years. And so it's this fucking money grab, because what the NHL owners are doing is saying, all right, you want to buy? All right, so here's the fee that you need to pay into all other 32 pockets in order to get that. And so it seems to me like a complete and obvious money grab. They're talking about building things up in the U.S. And I just think I think it's scary for the product. Seems to be inevitable, but it's scary for the product to me. You watch a weeknight game in Sunrise, Florida, and they've got 15% attendance. You've got the Yotes, who are an exciting team. They're playing in front of 4,700. There are a number of examples of just that we're not ready for this yet. They're striving for it, and it throws off all the math around who makes the playoffs. It throws off the structure and value of draft picks, draft positioning, the players that end up making it. It throws a lot of wrenches into a pretty tight 32-team structure, and they're just doing it for the payday.
And as you said,
it's not more complicated than that.
No sports league in North America has expanded past 32 teams, and it's something that they,
because Jack, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but what's next? Look at the NFL.
No, I
look at the NFL.
I understand.
The NFL's charging towards 18-game season. Mm-hmm. So now you're gonna have 32 teams, maybe 33 teams. So what's the round number? 36? Is 40 the round number?
Right.
10 divisions of 4, or 4 divisions of 10, and then all of a sudden now we're saying, well, look, now we can't get every team in every building.
Correct.
Oh, we need to expand the schedule past 82. So now we've
got
I
get it.
whole new
That's
thing.
all I'm saying is I agree with you.
this.
I think it's it's a scary reality. It's
all part
it
of
is a money grab.
It's
it's
a shameless money grab.
It's well said. It is well said. But
I will say one thing, just I know the idea of a 33rd team on paper sounds horrible because you have the schedule issue. You have one conference that has less playoff spots per team. But I don't think it's the end of the world. Even I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, remember when the Astros in baseball were in the NL? The NL had 2 more teams than the AL for 5 years.
Mm-hmm. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the
and
world.
it worked out fine.
but
It worked out fine.
It's not the end of the world.
I don't think having a 36 team league is horrible if they're expanded to the right places. I just don't.
To me, it's less about whether or not you like it, and it's more about how is it going to happen, because it's going to happen.
Yeah,
and I think even
feels
to
like a when,
your
not
point
if.
about 33, I don't think they stop at 33. I think it would, like you said, it gets
33. You get to
33 is a nice round number.
33. You get to
it's just-
36.
Is 33? No,
It's
33
a
is
scary,
not a prime
it's
number.
a scary reality. But
I
those were
just don't
the
think it is too scary.
those were the updates from Commissioner Bettman at the All-Star Game. A fun weekend in Toronto, as David Pasta said very well. It was nice for the Toronto players to win a second round series. So it was well said by the Boston forward.
I'm just glad Pasternak's counting all those rings on his fingers from one playoff series from a guy who hasn't won dog shit.
And by the way, the Leafs were carried. Leafs All-Star team was carried by the one and only Alex DeBrincat, who finally remembered how to score goals. At the All-Star game.
Whatever. But fun weekend indeed for Toronto, and I think McDavid won the skills competition, $1 million, and so that was nice for McDavid, obviously, and then Team Matthews and Justin Bieber won the All-Star game itself. Moving on, big trades that happened as we talked about, as we actually wrapped up our last pod. Funny enough, as I think basically we hit finish. We found out that Elias Lindholm had been traded to the Vancouver Canucks for, let's see who was in that deal. Kuzmenko going to, obviously, Calgary. Two prospects, a first-round pick, and a conditional fourth-round selection in the 2024 NHL Draft. Defenseman prospect Hunter. Oh, we talked about how potentially to say the Bruce Witz. But potentially deemed the next. He's the Adam Fox
of the OHL.
Of the OHL, yeah, I think that's what I heard.
Him.
And then Yanni Yermo goes to Calgary in exchange for Elias Lindholm, who did score 2 goals on his Vancouver debut in a 3-2 victory over the Carolina Hurricanes last night. Elias Lindholm, we talked about, probably the biggest target on our trade board, is off the board and goes to Vancouver, who the big thing I want to say, and I know we're not really covering loose change, I mean, I don't think there's a hockey line I'm more in love with than Joshua, Bluger, and Garland. I think it's the most fun line in hockey to watch. I mean,
the third lines, yeah,
it's
awesome.
It's the termite episode of the week.
It's just unbelievable stuff. I mean, it was just hardcore stuff, and then you throw Dakota Johnson in front of the net and just set him up all day for his. I think he's got 13. Dakota Joshua.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
But he's already got
the big fella. They have such a great diversity of skill sets on that line. Like you have Joshua, who's the big guy, who's not quick, but he is fast and he's large and physical. You got Bluger, who's crafty, can take draws, wins draws, is like good face-off man, and does his job being pretty strong. He's sort of a diet JG Peugeot.
Yep.
And then you got Garland on the wing, who's
just works his ass off.
Completely unique, like athlete. Nobody else in the NHL is as small as him. He's, if you remember Nathan Gerby, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say he's Gerby.
Incredible motor, one of the smallest guys in the league. So crafty and unconventional, but he's a great battler. Like he's just a puck retriever.
Good skill too.
Puck retriever, and what he does that's really special is retrieve pucks and make a first pass. All part of the process of winning a battle. So like he'll win a battle, and it's not like he's emerging from the puck like sometimes other guys are, where he'll emerge from the battle and he'll scrap his way and get like do like a no more legs underneath me and like a layout. If you hit the pass button twice in Chell, he'll make that desperation pass from the corner. Yeah, he set up one of the goals. I don't know if was that a goal for Joshua or just a scoring chance?
No, just a scoring chance off
and
the pipe.
And he fed Joshua right in front last night. But
no,
that
fun.
line's awesome. But I'm sorry, Jack, to just
You're
wrap
good.
up the point, which is when I saw Lindholm on the market, I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, think about the depth some teams are going to have at center, and he's playing wing for them because of the strength of that third line, and obviously that he's too good to go to a fourth line, and their top 2 lines are buzzing too much to switch up center rotation. So like I love how many center icemen they have, and I mean, big move, aggressive move from Jimmy Rutherford up there in Vancouver.
And it's going to place him next to the Elias. Elias goes to Elias Pettersson, and then Mikheyev. How do you say it? Mikheyev was the pairing last night as Lindholm was a net front presence, scoring 2 deflection goals for Vancouver last night. He was the only Vancouver Canuck that was not selected by Team Hughes in the All-Star game as that had happened. And
oh, by the way, who's on the next line? JT Miller, Brock Besser,
and Pius Suter
right now.
Yep.
So,
but they're gonna experiment with those top lines.
Yeah.
Don't expect us to say the same. But it also gives them, like we talked about this, gives them the ability to go line up JT Miller, Patterson, and Besser.
And
that Lindholm can play with anyone.
The power play. I was watching their power play because Lindholm had 2 goals on that one, and he was kind of playing.
Were they both power play goals?
Yep. And both of them in front of the net. But I mean, it
both
basically
from
allows
Quinn Hughes just floating tip.
But allows Hughes, Besser, and Pettersson to kind of work the puck around a little bit more of their skill, and Lindholm just sits in front with his big body, and he the first goal was an insane tip that was going wide. The second one he's just in front of the net, and I think it hit off him. But but it opens up that power play for much more talent from the stars.
But he's playing the Kuzmenko role.
But the thing is, we're getting really loose changey here, and like the game last night was really exciting and interesting, especially against a team like Carolina. But let's just take a look at the trade and the return for a second.
Yeah.
So what were on each sides of the trade?
So Kuzmenko goes to Calgary with, like I said, Bruce Witz and Yermo with a first-round selection
and this Buchkowitz. And I heard
in a fourth-rounder.
I heard Buchkowitz or whatever is
Like we said, the Adam Fox of the O.
that's been the comp.
Yes.
And he's a long shot. He's a
U.S. National Development player
Okay.
as well, and supposed to be a talented young defenseman.
But he was probably the number one defenseman in Vancouver's system.
It sounded like a yes.
So that'd be like the equivalent of like a Mason Lohrei.
Yeah, if you really want to
Maybe.
if you want to throw it into your Boston world, yeah, sure.
Or whoever else.
He's
you
not
have
an
in the
Uber. He's not
wings.
expected to be like a number one. I think he's like a
Lohrei or Buchkowitz or whatever.
Buchkowicz. I think he's like his upside's like a number two guy with some offensive upside. Puck mover.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously every.
It's a
team
piece,
needs one.
and it's not. I don't think it's a flyer. I think he's expected to play in the NHL. How good he is, I think, is up.
So
I
he
think
has-
I don't
think
know
it's
much
almost the
about him,
opposite.
but
I
Here's
think
what I
it's
can
almost
tell
the
you:
opposite
he's
from what I heard.
69 points in 47 games for Kitchener in the OHL. He's a third-round
I
pick by
never
the
know what
Canucks in
OHL points
23.
means.
Me neither. They're scoring
For a
so many
defenseman,
points
for a
at junior
defenseman,
these
though,
days.
It's a lot of points, yeah.
impressive. It's
It's hard to tell. Anyway,
61 apples.
All right, got it. So he basically went for. I mean, Kuzmenko, who's a good player.
Kuzmenko, a first, a fourth, and 2 prospects.
Kuzmenko had 74 points last year.
But he's also a guy, if you look at Tocchet's system,
39 goals.
he did not fit in with Tocchet's system. He goes and, we talk about the
But
instant impact.
but Kuzmenko has term in his contract. Lindholm does not.
And I think Kuzmenko is
So
still
that's a
an
big.
RFA,
I mean,
yeah.
it's a big price they paid
Oh,
to be
it's-
aggressive and get their guy. It's a big price they paid. They paid
Yep.
a 70-point producer and 39 goal scorer last year.
Yep.
Yeah, which won't.
I know.
27% shooting percentage.
Okay, and I think
He's probably a 25 to 30 goal scorer. 25 goal scorer.
okay, a legit top 6 scorer.
Yeah.
Legit top 6 scorer, a first round pick,
A fourth,
a fourth,
and 2 prospects.
and 2 prospects.
It's a pretty big,
It's a haul.
pretty big haul.
That's a haul, and you got to give Calgary some credit there for getting back a decent haul there for one of their main
Well,
trade
and I
chips.
think because you're bringing it up, I think let's look at the
setting the
instant-
tone awfully high, setting the price.
It is, but
awfully high.
you've looked at Vancouver, and the last time we looked at Vancouver in the Stanley Cup is obviously versus your Bruins. But now you look at this team, and they are gelling, they're flowing. Obviously they came out hot and beat their expectations, but now they've kind of transformed themselves, as we talked about with their depth, into a serious contender. You add a guy like Elias Lindholm, the biggest target at the deadline. It screams, I am all in. We're going for it, and that's what they should be doing. You're getting great goaltending. You got good defensive depth, besides maybe that last pair with Zadorov. But things are gelling, and it just feels different around this Vancouver team. I've
Well, it's
watched.
felt different all year, and they've been an awesome team all year. To wrap up the Lindholm talk, and I get all your points are valid, Jack. They're heavyweights in the West. This move, right? We just saw them at wing. We'll see how they figure that out. But this is a Stanley Cup move, and if you're gonna make it
Yep.
past the quarters, the semis, the conference, Stanley Cup Finals, you're gonna lose
Well,
players. You're gonna lose players,
Right.
And they have about 6 guys that can play center
Well,
on a cup contending team that now are mashed into those different roles. I put so much value in face-off success in giving a team a chance, and so now they can play the forehand, right, the strong side, weak side, depending on where those offensive or defensive zone draws are, and they've got the depth there. So
Well,
I mean that's all I got there. But
I got one last point about it.
it's just that Rutherford had to pay a higher price to get
Yes.
it done sooner.
Yes, and there were teams apparently calling. Apparently, New York had submitted a few offers that were rejected by Calgary. But no, McDavid and Draisaitl were interviewed on the Monday's version of 32 Thoughts, and they were both asked, who is your biggest kind of rival? And both of them started with L.A., and then they finally said Vancouver. But they're more focused on L.A., which makes you think, maybe this Pacific Division. Well, yes, you've got Vancouver still in that hunt, but it seemingly feels like the division may be Vancouver's.
I don't mean to poo-poo you, but
It was surprising to see that.
rhetorical question, rusty rhetorical question. How do you build rivalries in hockey?
Make the playoffs.
Playoff series. Last 2 playoffs they've played against each other. So that's their real rival.
I get it. It's just it doesn't feel like the guard has necessarily changed in the
Well,
Pacific.
Vancouver
like
hasn't
it
been
looks
in the
like.
lofts. Right? They haven't been there since the Oilers.
The
have been
last
the
final thoughts on the trade. Kuzmenko did score 2 goals in his Calgary. One? Oh, I thought it was 2. But 1 goal in a big 4-1 victory for the Calgary Flames over, unfortunately, Rusty's Boston Bruins. Lindholm to the Vancouver Canucks, a 1-year rental as he is a UFA at the end of the summer, or the beginning of the summer, I should say. From there, we go to Sean Monahan. The Montreal Canadiens traded the center to the Winnipeg Jets for 2 picks, a late first rounder and a conditional third round selection in the 2027 draft for Monahan, who signed a 1-year deal, as we talked about, low value at 1.9, I believe, but the center at up to 35 points at 13 goals and 22 assists and 49 is now part of Rick Bowness and the Winnipeg Jets. Boys, what do we got on Monahan going to Winnipeg?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a win-win trade here. Winnipeg gets Monahan, who is one of the most sought-after guys. Again, pulled the move early. I don't think they overpaid for him. I think that is what he was going to get traded for. We'll see how he fits in with this roster, but for a Jets team that's playing really well, they're stingy. Adding another guy who can score, play center, has a bigger body, like, good move. On the Canadian side, they got 2 first-round picks out of Monahan because they took a first-round pick to get him and eat his contract from the Flames. And now they're getting another one for trading him away.
Initially. Okay.
So, I mean, Canadians, well done. You just added 2 first-round picks to your roster through Sean Monahan. I'm excited to see Sean Monahan. And we talked about him last week, how he's going to be on the block, and he's playing good hockey now. Now it's a different type of good hockey you have to play. You're playing with a good team. You're playing for playoff seeding right now. You're going to be in the hunt. This is different than just getting your game back together with the Canadians. So let's see what he can do. But I think this is a good move all around. I don't think it was an overpay on either side, and he's going to be called on to play top 2 minutes and score some goals for this team.
If the Vancouver move to acquire Lindholm was the big ticket, swing for the fences, loud move that existed out there, this was the low-key move that could be the biggest move. I think it's significantly lower basement, right? Or lower. I think this could turn into a nothing move. Monahan could get hurt. We know that he could get hurt. And that's just the very, very true reality.
Only played 25 last year. It's a part of his history, unfortunately.
They might have just lit a first-round pick on fire. But he fits right in there. And I think he's not just the great player on the ice, but I think he's a great presence off the ice where not only is he on he's on under $2 million AAV cap hit. So there's still room for more trades out of Winnipeg. But what he brings to it's not just the on-ice player and production that, again, if he stays healthy, is a major asset to every single team. But this is a guy that's been through some serious shit over the last 2.5, 3 years, dealing with all of his injuries, his NHL career on the line, working his way back. This is a guy that's grateful for every single day and every single opportunity. And now he's joining a team that's really trying to make a push for the Stanley Cup. I think that's a big emotional lift, and it's obviously a complementary skill set. Monahan's always been known for two-way game, being able to play structured down the middle and anchor a defensive mindset, and that's all Rick Bowness has been preaching all year. So I love the move. I love both moves, but if I could pick one, I think I need to say that the Winnipeg move. I like the Winnipeg move better because I think it's a lower price for what I think could be ultimately a similar reward. But Lindholm, I just think the worst Lindholm brings is still really, really, really good. And the worst Monahan brings could be close to zero.
I got 2 points on that, and it was with the speculation when Lindholm went, most of those teams you would think would have, for center depth, would have focused on Monahan. So I think the teams got worried, and Winnipeg just pulled the trigger before either the other contenders that were looking for center depth could. That was point one, and then point two is it's already been said. Rick Bowness on another 32 Thoughts interview said he'll slot in with Perfetti and Ehlers on the second line, allowing Nemestikov. How do you say it? Nemestikov to go back to the fourth line, so he'll lose minutes, but it adds that center depth behind Scheifele, who's coming back tonight, and Lowry. For the center roles for the Winnipeg Jets.
Well, I think it's
Lowry, Appleton, Niederreiter.
It's kind of similar because this is another elite third line.
Yep.
Lowry, Appleton, Niederreiter is great. I was a little surprised Niederreiter fits so well in with those guys, but he adds he's the Garland of the line. He adds that bit of skill that can make them actually an offensive threat. I love Appleton, love Lowry. I think Lowry's just a unit. I think he's Walmart. Jordan Staal.
Very underrated. Very underrated.
You say Walmart Jordan Staal.
It's a little discrediting to Lowry, actually.
Maybe career per career.
Yeah.
But at this moment in time,
he's kind of Jordan Staal.
And he's a little smaller than Jordan Staal. He's not the superhuman Hulk that Jordan Staal is. but he's a lot. I think he's a lot. I think he's more than a little faster than Jordan Staal, right?
Yeah, he's only 30, but he's what? Like he looks like he's 6'3" on the ice.
Jordan Stahl's gonna be 36.
I know, but Lowry's 30. He looks like he's 6'3" when he plays. I don't know how tall he is.
He's been around for
He's fast.
10 plus years. I feel
He's
like
got a
at this
bigger
point.
bag of knuckles than Jordan Stahl.
And now you look at the top two lines. They have legitimate top two lines.
Yep.
You know, that top line of Scheifele, Velarde, and Connor. They had Ehlers playing up there before Connor got back, and they were great. But, I mean, Connor's going to play with Scheifele. You know?
Yep.
So that's great. And then Perfetti is kind of getting a good look at playing with Monahan and Ehlers. That's a lot of playmakers. And, you know, Monahan adds that defensive game. They don't have to worry as much about not having – like, Nemeskov brings defense, but he's a fourth line.
Well, and it brings, I mean, even to look at that fourth line, yes, Morgan Barron's there, but also it's, you know, Alex Iafallo, who they've gotten production out of early in this season. So, you know, it's not like he's not playing with, you know, he's playing with a basic third line right winger, you know, left winger. He's probably a fourth liner, but this will allow Monahan to slot in towards the first power play on the right with Scheifele and Velarde on the left, and then Connor slides up to the defensive role with Morrissey for a pretty lethal power play one. And, you know, Monahan can move the puck, size. He can be in that front presence for guys like Velarde and Scheifele who may not want to be standing in front of the net.
Velarde's big too.
But
Velarde's a low-key thick boy.
You know, we've talked a little bit about our Winnipeg Jets, and, you know, looking at the reach of what they've done in the Central Division. You know, they're in a race with Dallas and Colorado, and, you know, both Colorado and Dallas have played 3 to 2 more games than Winnipeg, and, you know, points percentage wise, it's Dallas than Winnipeg by a matter of 3% points. So it's close, and what Winnipeg's been able to do, and Rick Bonus's interview was he talked about a kind of a culture, and last year they didn't have that culture, and you kind of saw an off year from the Jets as they kind of, I think, limped into the playoffs and exited in the first round. But now you're kind of seeing a team that, yes, we asked all these questions. Oh, you're re-signing Scheifele and Hellbuck to these big long-term deals, and then you look at it and they trade, you know, PLD for Iafallo and Velarde, and now all of a sudden they've just completely reshaped their whole team. You know, yes, re-signing some veterans, but now look at it, and, you know, the Winnipeg Jets are right in the middle of a hunt for a Central Division title, and it's been wild to see what the transition of culture and worth ethic and what they can get for a compete level as both coaches. Tokic and Bonus said on the interviews, and it was interesting, and it's just been fun to watch the Winnipeg Jets kind of revamp themselves, only with just basically getting PLD out of the locker room.
Talking like Rocket.
Credit to every player on this Winnipeg Jets team. The
They're
team that we watched last year, they were hot to start the year, and we kind of just trashed them, and that continued throughout the offseason. The reason they're good is because they're playing good hockey. And every single player is playing better than they did last year. They're just playing. They're playing sound. They do not give up goals. They are the stingiest team in hockey right now. And it's not even close. Hellebuck's job is easy, and he's dominating at it right now.
Little bit of a dose of reality, just for these two moves, right? Bring us back down to earth. Both these organizations just gave up pretty decent chunk for these guys.
Yep.
This could go into a first round loss to Dallas for Winnipeg. First round loss to Colorado for Winnipeg. This could go into a first round loss against Edmonton or against Vegas for Vancouver.
Yeah, a lot of things could happen.
No. Again, I'm for it. I like the aggressiveness, but, you know, it's aggressive for a reason. They're gearing up. They're gearing up. They're betting on themselves, but it's not without risk.
Of course not. But they have a good core here that's in their prime right now. Their core is in their prime. I love the aggressiveness. I think Monahan was one of 2 players that could step in and have an offensive impact without sacrificing anything defensively. So this is a slam dunk.
Yep.
Lindholm was the other guy, so he was off the market, and they might not have wanted to pay for that.
It definitely changes what the outlook of
those two teams just boosted their
depth
in my head.
Yep, and there's teams we've talked about that need the center depth, and those are 2 big tickets off the board, and it already looks like the first round draft pick is an absolute requirement. So we'll see what kind of some of these other guys are able to bring back in trades as we continue towards the trade deadline. The last big note in trade updates is the World Juniors case has evolved and continued, and 5 players are still without their or away from their teams. But the NHL did come out and allow the teams that were involved with this, being New Jersey, Calgary, and Philadelphia, cap relief for these 5 players that are missing. That does allow teams like Philadelphia, who did lose their starting goaltender and Carter Hart, $4 million to try and make a move and try and make a decision on what what they want to do for the remainder of this season. If it is a quick trip to the playoffs, is it a lengthy trip to the playoffs? We'll see. But they're not necessarily limping, but they're starting to try and determine what the next move is, and it has now become a serious weakness in Philadelphia. But cap relief for New Jersey, Philadelphia, and I'm blanking on
Calgary.
it now, and Calgary.
We'll see if anyone makes moves here. I think Philly's actually in a good position to make a move. I know they're stuttering right now, and they're probably feeling less optimistic. I don't think it's going to be a buy now move, but they have too many defensemen. So I think that, and people are looking at their defensemen, I think they might do just a flop that isn't necessarily a
Hockey
go
trade.
for it, but a hockey trade.
Yeah.
And then New Jersey's interesting because they're not playing well. They're in the hunt. They're right there.
They did beat Colorado last night, but yes.
But generally they haven't been
It's been
playing
up and
well.
down. No, absolutely.
But they're going to get healthy, and they're interesting to see because they must have last year in the back of their mind and seemingly should have taken a step, but injuries, I think, are a large part to blame there. They're a little interesting with some cap relief there because they probably, got like $3-4 million from that?
I don't know what Calfoot was making. But
Two players on
yeah.
the minimum,
Yeah.
roughly $2 million.
They're both on the min?
I don't think
Maybe.
Calfoot was making more than $1.5 million.
Yeah, but it's enough.
2-3
That's a
range.
difference.
Yep,
Two
that-
players
definitely.
on minimum is enough to open some things
That
up.
could be the difference between having $3 million available on your book and having $5 million available on your book.
Yep.
That's a big difference. So I'm with you. Yeah, I mean, they're as far as the implications for those teams and what we're going to see the rest of the way. I'm not going to sit here and drop every scenario and how it could impact. I think that the one debate item on this decision from the league office is there are really two clear sides to be on, right? It is, do you believe that every franchise should be responsible for the players they draft in any possible impact that has on their ability to play? And as soon as you sign a contract, you are committing to that cap number for that player, no matter what happens on or off the ice. Do you believe that without question or debate? Or do you believe that this is one special event circumstance that is okay to make an exception for?
Well, that's been the big
Anywhere in between, it's a slippery slope.
and that's been the relative history towards cap relief has been towards injuries, as you're talking about. And now we're talking about in a season where we saw the Blackhawks terminate Corey Perry's contract. It does sound like the PA still wants that to be pursued. Still hasn't really been decided what's going to happen there, but the players are still being paid by
So
their
what side of
clubs.
it are you guys on?
I think in this case it's fine. And the reason why is because the NHL does not want to take a stance on this.
Until the courts have in Canada.
And so what they're saying is we're not going to let them play. And even though legally they can play, right? Like they're allowed to play. They haven't been charged with anything yet, but we don't want them
Well, they have-
playing
they
in
have been
case they
charged.
get. They've been charged, but you can still play if you're charged, right?
Correct. No, it's innocent until
You can
proven
do anything
guilty.
unless if you're charged. I think.
It's-
Well, maybe they have to stay in Canada. I don't know
And
how that
if
works.
the U.S. allows them to come back.
I think this is the NHL just saying, look, we're not gonna
Wiping
touch
their hands
it.
clean. Wiping
correct.
their hands clean.
Correct.
And
Well,
I
they're
think
away
the
from
rest
their
of
teams.
The rest of the owners are like, yeah, let's keep it that way.
Oh, and 32 Thoughts discussed it. And,
It's just such a blessing. Yeah, I mean, again, it's a horrible scenario. I don't want to talk about blessings, but thank God this isn't concerning some of the biggest stars in the NHL. Like, imagine if Cale Makar was really caught up in this. Like, if a name
Be horrible.
and a player that big was really tied
Well,
in.
And
and
it
he
easily
still
could have
is.
been that.
He is a victim at this point of the fact that he's.
I know we
currently,
talked about that, but I think everybody's going to stay out of that, and there's
Well,
an ounce of dirt on him.
Right. No, I'm not debating that. I'm just saying right now with that whole 2018 World Junior team is suspended and are not allowed to play in Team Canada events. I don't think this will be dragged on until the 2026 Olympics. But
And also, who's to say they're going to formally involve Hockey Canada in the Big Four tournament? They could just create a new entity.
that's
that
that's
picks the team. Like, there are other
Hockey
ways
Canada
around it.
has gotten its scrutiny over this
Yeah,
story, and
yeah.
politicians in Canada want all the investigations, and they want this to be heard.
So
it's-
Arm just gave an opinion, and Jack tried to sidestep giving one. So what is it, Jack?
I think I agree with you. I think in this
You want
this
to pull the fence
specific
out from under your ass?
No, I think this is in this specific case. I think it makes sense. And I don't
is anyone
think
complaining?
I don't think the owners are too worried about
Internally,
this.
I bet some teams are crying about it.
Well, some
internally.
teams are worried about this setting a precedent, and that's the big concern about it. I think owners aren't as worried about this given the relative facts of what is going on.
I mean, I think there's legit. I think it's a legit. There's legit concerns from
I
both
guess
sides.
so, yeah.
There just are. I mean, there's bound to be another event that happens off ice that impacts players' availability on the ice.
Yeah, and the teams were aware that this was something that could come up with these players.
Well, so Calgary's been very on
my-
record saying they have not known anything about this.
Well, then they're idiots. They haven't read the news.
Listen. The question is, was this stuff known before they drafted the players?
No, but it was known for 5 years.
But all right, but regardless of that, my point is, as soon as you pick the player, you're picking the whole player, the on the ice player, the off the ice player, the family, the history. You're picking the whole thing.
Yeah, I hear you.
And as soon as you trade for or acquire or sign a player, you're taking that on. So I happen to think that they shouldn't have gotten the relief because I do think it creates a slippery slope. However, it's a savvy move. It's a savvy move right now. I don't see this kind of a special exception being granted in the future, really ever, unless there's some kind of a crazy incident. But I don't know. I don't. It doesn't seem crazy to me to think that, as horrible as that 2018 thing was, that it won't happen again to some degree.
I know, and it can happen in any different way with legal
It could be
issues.
on a bus of a world, not even a World Junior team. Let's say it's a junior hockey team.
But it could also
It's a hazing incident. It's a hazing incident in the queue. And there were 4 guys at the back of the bus that get charges levied against them that you don't find out about until after their draft year.
No, I hear
now
you.
what?
I also think this is a different. I don't think cap relief comes if it is a 10 mil player.
And
I think
all
there's
5,
context.
4 of
And I
the
think Gary was pretty smart to kind of,
4 of the 5 players that
he
are
jumped
involved.
on this one to help just move past it and wipe their hands clean, which I think is probably good. That's probably good, like
Good PR,
commissioning
yeah.
by him. So
Longest tenured commissioner in North American sports.
So I think that's good commissioning by him. But if I were an owner, I'd be advocating against it.
And it's 4 of these 5 players are on expiring deals. They are some of them might be RFAs, but for the most part, all will be free agents after
They
the
are
season.
so fucked.
Their careers are
no
on
matter
hold.
no matter what the courts say, their careers are toast.
Yeah.
Well, and action leads to that. So
I would be shocked if all 5 players
play in the NHL again.
play a combined 100 games in the NHL.
Well, one won't play because he's not good enough.
Yeah.
All right, so 4 players, 100 games. I'm under.
I think under as well, but
But-
we'll see what happens here in the developing story. The case is now in
Whatever.
the hands
Enough
of
on
the
the
Canadian
bad story
courts.
all around. Let's
Moving
get to the
moving
fun.
on to your Stanley Cup pick. Your Stanley Cup pick is faltering again, and it happened. They made the change.
Goddamn.
Todd McClellan out in L.A. Rob Blake fired the head coach and is putting in interim head coach Jim Hiller. The other big news out of L.A. was that DJ Smith will come into as an assistant role, but a big change for the L.A. Kings as Todd McClellan is fired after a really tough month of January, end of December. The Kings have been spiraling. I think it was something to the tune of like 12 losses or something like that, and it was ugly hockey happening in LA. I know we've talked about the scrutiny of basically PLD and what that has probably caused in that locker room and in that media, but the reality is this Kings team was primed to have a good bounce back year in the Pacific, and it's been a good start, now faltering with a bad lull here in January. What do we got?
Yeah, I feel completely take cornered. But you know what the most dangerous kind of animal is?
One that's scared.
One that's trapped in a corner.
Yeah.
And so maybe the LA Kings realize everybody's jobs are on the line now. I mean, maybe that goes all the way through. Maybe there's a message now to Doughty and Kopitar. It says, hey, guys, you want to finish your careers as a King? I mean, that's not your birthright. Like, we know you want us 2
saw it
cups,
in Chicago.
but you know you want to contend for cups. Like, prove it to us, because we are another 14 out of 17 stretch away from being sellers at the deadline here. So if you guys can't figure it out yourselves, nobody's job is secure.
Correct.
Nobody can keep living this cushy lifestyle in Huntington Beach. Nobody can be ready to just cruise around in a country club lifestyle. I don't know. It worries me. One of the major reasons I consider them a cup contender was McClellan. I think he's one of the best coaches in the league.
He'll get
And
picked up quickly.
a lot of the ways that, like, every time I watch them, specifically in the Edmonton series, right? Every time I watch them play Edmonton compared to the next series I watch Edmonton play, nobody made it more difficult on Edmonton to get through the neutral zone than the LA Kings did, and I give tons of credit to McClellan and
Gave him that
frankly,
structure.
and frankly the roster
Blake.
construction. Well, I don't know if Blake gets all the credit for that, but the roster construction today with the center depth and with Deneau and Kopitar and everything that's surrounding them. But yeah, boys, it's a shocking move. I can't say I totally endorse it, but
You can't say you're shocked either. I mean, we looked at
That's as tough of a stretch as exists
Yep.
in any team Stanley Cup story.
Mm-hmm.
No Stanley Cup team goes through a stretch much worse than that.
Well, and we've seen all these coaching changes at this point. We saw Edmonton buy into the fact that they needed to change things up, and now we've seen them as they just got off of a 16-game winning streak last night. I mean, the coaching change worked. We've seen it with other teams. It worked. Minnesota, it's been a little bit of a shaky waters, but in Ottawa as well, obviously with Martin, but
It's gotten worse.
it has gotten worse. There's no debating that. But in the
and
typical,
if there's one franchise you want to bring in some vibe from, it's DJ Smith from Ottawa.
but you look
he
at
was better than the new.
You look at
regimes.
Vancouver last year, who brought in, or 2 years ago when they brought in Tocchet. He has changed the culture.
That was last year.
It was last year. That's what I thought. But you started to see things change. You started to see things kind of hit ahead in Vancouver as it did. But
I
now
just
you're
want to say
starting
this
see
is very
Vancouver in this year is now
Jack.
what
This
they
is
take him.
This is very different from bringing in Tocchet because you just cut off the head and now the assistant's risen.
I don't disagree. I think they're just hoping a different mind, a different person in that locker room can jumpstart those veterans and
Thing is,
hopefully
I don't
find their gear.
I don't think their systems are going to change.
I also don't think the systems are the issue. I'm
The
just
message.
looking at some numbers here. The best penalty kill in hockey. It's a good way to be good. It's surprising you can be that bad for a stretch with that. Special teams are very important. They don't give up goals in general. Obviously, their penalty kill is good. They score at a league average rate. Kind of what I expect of them. They don't have like a high-powered offense. Can I just do a little trivia here? A stat sheet looking. Give me who you think would have the highest plus-minus and lowest plus-minus on this team.
Highest, I'm going to say Trevor Moore.
Okay.
Lowest, I'm going to say PLD.
Okay.
Okay, highest. I'm going to say Kopitar or
Okay.
Kempe. Lowest, I'm going to say Fiala.
Interesting.
Okay. Interesting. Number one is Quentin Byfield. He's a plus 14 this year. Kempe and Kopitar at 11 and 12, so they're right there. Lowest is PLD at minus 16. Now, what's
Yeah, I believe
interesting is his line mates are not close to him. The next closest is minus 6, Kevin Fiala. This guy has a 10 worse plus minus than anyone else on the team. That's just unacceptable.
Where's
I know plus minus is a dinosaur stat, but for reasons like that in a large sample, it's exactly what it needs to be.
That I don't care
That
if
tells
you
the
think
whole
it's
story.
a dinosaur stat. That's atrocious. You can't be there's what? I think there's
No, that adds up with the eye test. It adds up with
There's
the eye
5
test.
guys on the team who have minuses: LaFerriere, Fiala, PLD, and then Grunstrom and England.
And
Where's Moore?
and I don't like Fiala. Like I know he's good,
Plus
but
5.
to Fiala's credit, right? A lot of his damage is done on the power play,
That's not what he's
Yep.
meant to do.
and he's not a checker.
Also,
he's
he's
just
not
not
minus
correct.
16.
He's
Well, I
-6,
mean,
right?
we've
Yeah,
spent our
it's
time
okay.
talking about Pierre-Luc Dubois, and it's just been,
He just got a coach fired. That's the bottom line.
I
Yep.
think so.
It's
That's
that
the only
obvious.
way I can
It's-
look at
it's
this.
that obvious.
And
There's no two ways around
and
it.
also Todd McClellan doesn't seem like the Rick Tocchet who is going to be up your ass in I don't know.
No.
You think so?
Ew.
Todd
think?
McClellan
Okay.
will chew you the fuck
Look at
out.
McClellan. He looks like a prison warden.
Todd McClellan's a hardo, dude.
Yeah. And McClellan actually changed his whole mentality for like adapting to like younger players that need a little bit more pillow
He's a
fight.
hardo.
He could be up your ass
But-
big time.
Oh,
He's an old school hockey guy.
It's going to go down, I think, as the worst trade in the last 5 years. And if I'm not saying, if Todd McClellan doesn't get you fired, I think PLD trade would.
PLD is the cancer of NHL locker rooms right now. There's not one more player who's as negatively impactful.
Oh, they
as
haven't
he
tried
is.
the health bomb
So my biggest thing on PLD, and I think this can wrap up the Kings conversation because we've been talking Kings for months. The locker room needs to wake him up. It can only come from the locker room. It's the only chance they have. And if the locker room can't get through to him, the new assistant coaches, they need to have a relationship with the locker room leadership to literally have the meetings and be like, he needs the leaders in the locker room to do everything they can to wake him up. And if that fails, then they need to just DNPCD him and just ninth floor him and just fucking play with that dead cap money.
It's wild to
Because
think
they're
a
better
guy-
off. They're better off with an AHL grinder than what they're getting out of PLD.
You just hope that maybe now that he realizes that his job
He's on the line.
impacts
Well,
not his
not on the
job's not
line.
on the line.
Yeah,
He's got his
yeah.
money locked in. His job impacts a lot of other people in his life.
Mm-hmm.
And if he doesn't want to care about anyone else, that's fine. You know that
That's just
yeah.
that wouldn't be surprising.
It's irreversible.
It's
But
very surprising that a guy like Kopitar and
he should,
Dowdy
he
can't
should
get
move
him
to
going.
Quebec. He should move to Quebec and make maple syrup. You know.
I mean, he does he just got a guy fired. I'm pretty confident in saying that if he was playing average hockey right now for his skill set, McClellan would still be there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an effort thing. It's a mentality
Oh,
thing.
and
It's
your
bad.
boy
And my dream's dead. Monahan and Montreal. The Monahan Montreal trade's over.
and
They
your
can't trade
boy
for
Claude Julian was on Kipper and Born this week, and they talked
Oh,
about
and he said a big pile of nothing. That was that. The reason he was on Kipper Born, I'm telling you this right now. The reason Claude Julien was on Kipper and Born right now is because fucking Julien's agent got him that spot to pretty much announce his availability to the rest of the NHL.
Oh, no,
That's
no,
the
no,
reason
no.
he was
They
on.
talked about PLD on his 2018 World Juniors team, that he was the best player apparently on that team.
Yeah.
And, it's just that he feels that the ceiling is there. It's just I don't know. It's just a mess
He
of a
gave you
situation.
he gave you nothing. He gave you
Fine,
nothing that we
fine,
don't
fair,
know.
fair.
And I'm not railing against Claude or
No,
the
I know,
show.
I know.
like the program, and Claude's like one
I
of
get
my.
what you're saying. It's just wild to think that I mean, I know he's fighting for a job. He's
But
trying
I'm
to
just
get hired.
I'm just telling you, don't interpret that spot as real hockey insight because Claude is too compromised right now. He's
right.
He's
He's
part
looking
of a
for a
labor
job.
market.
No, I get what you're saying.
That was a
I get what you're
business.
saying.
That was a business transaction.
It's crazy how
Claude might give them scoops sometimes.
Pierre-Luc Dubois. I mean, wake up and maybe you can see some success in LA. And for a guy who's in such a winnable situation,
Jack,
it's
I'm
just-
ready.
it's
I'm ready to
terrible.
turn the page to our next topic, but I think we all collectively said it. I give credit to you and Arm the way that you guys, I think, coined this phrase, which was, wasn't happy where he came up, wasn't happy in Winnipeg, wasn't happy here, wasn't happy there. If you can't be happy playing on this team in this city on a cup contending spot in Southern California, you're never going to be happy playing so.
Excuse me. Yeah, I agree with you.
And
I absolutely agree with you.
We're rapid. We are. How many games left this season? 30? 28?
28 to 30.
We are about 28 games away from finding out
Yep.
if there's any hope for this guy.
I agree with you. I mean,
just
it's just
crazy.
insane how much money you got.
And
But
you would hate to see the end of the Kopitar Doughty era in,
And like
in
this.
LA go down in flames because
Well,
of
and
this jackass.
you've talked about it earlier with Doughty and Kopitar potentially being replaceable. I mean, we saw the Kings move on from Jonathan Quick and
I didn't say replaceable, but like if they're turning the switch from contender to rebuild,
moving on. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, I did not say replaceable.
apologies, threw words out there. I mean, more about moving on and seeing the next step of the future. But no,
if I'm running the Kings, I'm taking off the kid gloves with everybody because I don't blame Pierre-Luc Dubois just on Pierre-Luc Dubois. I blame it on the whole thing all the way down. That's why I fired McClellan.
Yep.
Now I'm saying assistant coaches, right? You're supposed to oftentimes be like the good cop when the head coach is the bad cop, right? Go figure it out and take care of it.
Yep.
And that goes to the locker room leaders too, which is, hey guys, look, we made big moves in order to make you a cup contender because we believe in you and we want you. But you're not giving us reason to continue believing in you. And as soon as we don't believe that you, Kopitar, and you, Doughty, can be the tent poles for a Stanley Cup team, then we need to start building our next Stanley Cup team, and that certainly doesn't involve both of you, unless you want to stick around for 3-4 years.
turning the page.
Sorry, I'm
Turning
fired
the
up.
page. Todd
Fired.
McClellan out in L.A.
Fired up.
Interim coach Jim Hiller comes
Just
in.
watch the Stars go win the cup this year. Just watch that.
Hey, Paul, we know someone would be very excited by that. Moving on. Give me the drum roll. It's time. We've arrived. The Termite Award Show. 49 episodes deep. We don't have 49 nominees, but we've got plenty, and it's going to turn into a first team like an All-American and a second team All-American, but it's second and first team All-Termite. The Woodshed, The Wood Show. Go watch the Termite definition on our YouTube page if you're confused. It's going to be a little bit like a Soldier's Builder type thing. I know Ross has transformed his list into that. Mine's a little bit of just first teams, second teams, and maybe I'll develop their roles as I go on the fly. But and I know Arm Dog's ready to shoot from the hip.
I'm ready to MC this, Jacko. You ready? You with me, buddy?
Take over on the first annual show of the Termite Selection.
First annual reading of the Termite Selection Committee. I just want to thank all of our loyal listeners and, of course, our Queen Termite, Miles Wood. Termite, after all, is a Miles Wood and Miles Wood type player. And Miles Wood really created if you could build a termite from the antenna down, it would be Miles Wood. And as we look at each of these players and evaluate them for first or second team selection, he is the gold standard that we compare all to. So the way I would like to run this right now is we've got a very straightforward voting process.
Mm-hmm.
There will be a first-team All-Termite, and there will be a second-team All-Termite. Each teams will consist of 5 chosen players,
Correct.
independent of builder or soldier status.
Correct.
Yep.
That's how we're beginning this.
No goalies on the list.
And that's how it's gonna
just
work.
Get that off the chest.
So the way I am going to the way I would like to conduct today's election is to read our termite selections in chronological order, and as we get to each name, confirm via Rusty Jack Armdog do we have a first team vote worth 2 points, a second team vote worth 1 point, or a null vote worth 0. And we will tally up all the points and select our first and second team at the conclusion of the readings. That sound good, gentlemen?
Sounds good.
Sure.
Fire away.
The very first termite nominated, I believe, was the arm dog. I believe was Oscar Sundquist in the builder category. Do we have any votes for first team on Oscar Sundquist?
Negative.
No.
No. Any votes for second team?
Negative.
Same. The second ever nominated termite was Saku Melaninen. Still in the Winnipeg Jets organization. He's in the builder category. That was a Rusty nomination. Do we have any first or second team votes for Saku Melaninen?
Negative.
Nope.
Negative. Our third nominated termite, Tanner Jeannot, in the builder category, nominated by Jack Siff. Do we have any first team nominations for Tanner Jeannot?
Of course, it's my pick. I do.
No.
I also have Jeannot for a first pick.
Fucking right.
So Jeannot, do we have any second team votes for
Yes,
Jeannot?
we do.
All right, so Jeannot has 5 points.
5 points. That's a pretty strong.
He's the clubhouse
pretty tough
leader
take
here to
down.
start. 3 through, and he's
The only
leader.
higher place is 6, so that's Jeannot's. That's big. He's looking like a first teamer. Okay, moving on. Our next nominated was, speaking of the LA Kings, Blake Lizotte in the soldier category. That was a Rusty nomination. Do we have any
Negative.
second team nominations?
Nope.
Any first team nominations?
Negative.
All right, moving on. Yoni Hakanpää in the builder category. Do we have any Hakanpää nominations?
Thought about this one for a while, but unfortunately, no.
No.
No. Eric Goodbranson, also in the builder category. Any nominations?
Also known as Cop Kubranson.
Gudo Cop. Goodbro Cop, because Gudo Cop is Gudis. Anyway, any nominations for Goodbranson?
Nope.
That makes 3. Next, Brandon Tanev in the soldier category. Any nominations for Brandon Tanev, first or second team?
First team, baby.
First team.
First team. That's a 6 for Brandon Tanev.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Our new leader.
Tanev felt like a lock. Tanev really did.
You know, he does it all. Our next candidate we're going to pass because he's ineligible.
Yes.
Our next candidate is Cal Clutterbuck in the builder category. Do we have first or second team nominees for Cal Clutterbuck?
Yes.
I got a first team.
First team.
First team.
That's 3
Leader.
first teams
Leader.
for Clutterbuck.
Leader.
Yeah.
All
Cal is kind of like the old guard. You know?
He's the guy he's your vet. He's your savvy vet. And
He's
gonna
that
be
first
there.
guy you hand the cup to after the captain.
And he's
Yeah.
going to be that first guy that you pass the torches on to.
Yeah, big time. All right, Cal gets a perfect score. Our next nominated termite, Connor Cliffy Hockey Clifton in the soldier category. Do we have any nominations for Connor Clifton?
Got him as a second teamer.
Second teamer.
Second teamer. That's 3 points for Connor Clifton.
Solid second teamer.
Very
right there.
interesting. Very, very interesting.
The boys are on
Cliffy Hockey.
same
We're-
page right
yeah,
now.
very, very similar. And we did not, for the record, we did not coordinate this. All right, moving forward. Peyton Krebs in the soldier category. Do I have any first or second team votes for Peyton Krebs?
Negative.
Unfortunately not. I wanted him, but
That's
no.
a 0.0 Blutarski. Our very next nominee, Keegan Kolasar, in the builder category. Any votes for Keegan Kolasar?
Not at this time.
Second team.
1 second team vote for Keegan Kolasar from the Arm Dog.
0 from you.
That's correct.
So 1 point.
That's right. Paul Cotter in the soldier category. Do we have any votes for Paul Cotter?
It's a negative from me.
No. Flurry might.
Ofer on Paul Cotter. Victor Arvidsson in the soldier category. Any votes for Victor Arvidsson?
Negative.
You know, if he was playing, I think the Kings might be better. But it was
He's expected
hard.
back soon.
It was hard to put him in this list after such a long break.
Small games played. Yeah,
Yep.
small games played. I agree. Okay, our next termite nominee is in the soldier category. Ryan Lomberg, Florida Panthers. Do we have any votes for Ryan Lomberg?
Love the player. He's a 1.
One. First team, baby.
2 first teams from you guys.
Yeah.
So I have Lomberg on my first team as well. That's a clean
Lomberg
6 for
felt like a
Lomberg.
lock as well.
That's a 6 for Lomberg. So funny. We're very
Moving
much
on
excited.
to this year's season.
That's
At this
right.
point.
Lomberg was the final nominee of last season.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a
First
rusty
nominee
pick,
this
by the
season
way.
in the
And
builder.
he was the one who had to fight for Cousins.
Yep.
He
He's
took
just
the
a
fight for
classic
Cousins.
termite, bro.
He took a
He's
face off, which I don't know if he
Guys.
does ever.
It's just
He
it's
lined
fitting.
up.
Guys.
It's fitting.
Big dog move.
We're beating a dead horse. And we're stop selling. We're sold. That's it. Lomberg 6 out of 6. He couldn't have a more perfect score. We love him. Mr. Speedo. All right. First nominee of this year. Rusty's nominee in the builder category, JT Miller. Any first or second team votes for JT Miller?
It was an interesting pick, but I have got no votes for JT Miller.
No, too good.
Too good. I agree. Next,
Oh yeah.
in the soldier category,
Take
our
pride on this
largest soldier, Liam Big Tuna O'Brien.
Yeah, lock.
You already know
Just
where
put a
he's
6 next to him.
yeah,
You
You
already
could
know
have
where
been
he's going. You already know he's on there.
I mean, if he wasn't a 6, I would have had serious issues.
All right. Wow, this is going to be a dead heat for that last spot on the first team. All right, still moving along. Our next point, we have. Oh, I looked his first name up. I didn't write it down though.
I got you.
No.
Will?
I owe it.
Will
Cooley. Will Cooley in the soldier category, the young rookie over with the New York Rangers. Do we have any first or second team votes for Will Cooley?
No.
Negative.
0.0 Plutarski. Charlie McAvoy, also in the soldier category. Any votes for Charlie McAvoy?
Way too good.
Like two times too good. All right. Next in the category of soldier, Brandon Duhaime, who we are going to see in the UC tonight. Brandon Duhaime. Do we have any votes for Brandon Duhaime? First or second team?
Second team.
Second team.
Wow. All right. Duhaime gets 2 points. I had him for 0. So that gives him a total of 2 points.
It's on the
2
line.
points voted. Our next termite, also in the soldier category, Andreas Englund of my LA Kings. Any votes for
This
Andreas
was another
Englund?
tough one. This is one I thought about for a little while, but unfortunately, I just got one guy in front of him. So no, he's not on the second team or first.
No.
All right. That's Ofer with Englund. That was tough, honestly. I felt like Englund was going to have a spot on my second team, but
Didn't make the cut.
nevertheless. Nicholas Delorier is our next termite. Also, I've got Delorier in the builder category. He's got a lumberjack vibe to him
Yep,
when I look
totally,
at him.
totally,
Feels like the kind
totally.
of guy you want building a cabin or something like that.
He's a builder.
That's right. So Delorier in the builder category. Any votes for Delorier?
Got him on the
Second
2.
team.
All right. That makes 3 of us.
He's a great second team
So
termite,
that's
you know?
3 points. 3 points for Delorier on the second team. Moving on, our next termite nominee is Jacob Lauko. Jacob Lauko of the Boston Bruins. Any first or second team votes for Jacob Lauko?
Negative.
No. I will say, just a little quick context here. I've been seeing a lot of Lauko love on Twitter. Apparently, he's got the best record in NHL history for games. Like, his record of games he's played in. Is
When
the
Lauko
best.
plays, the Bruins
Bruins
record
win.
is like 78%.
It's crazy.
It's also because he's only played over the last 2 seasons.
I know, but he's played the right games. Nobody else is on that list.
You're damn right.
Well, the big thing-
I gave Lauko a second team vote.
Okay.
I was
So he's
trying
got
to
one.
give him, my
So I
process.
didn't give. I awarded 1 second team vote for Lauko's body of work.
So you voted him second team.
Correct. He has 1 point.
Copy that. Oh, I just think, Lauko may have hit. Has he hit the 100-game point yet? That was a big
No, he has not.
factor in my decisions.
All right. Very interesting. Interesting to learn about the Termite Writers of America voting standards. Okay, Barclay Goudreau in the builder category. How many votes for Barclay Goudreau?
0.
0. I wanted him, but 0.
I also have Goudreau as a second teamer. That gives him
Yep.
1 vote. All right, our next termite, also in the builder category, Curtis McDermott. Do we have any votes for Curtis McDermott on first or second team?
This is a guy that plays both sides of the puck, forward and defense, but no.
No.
That's 0 for 3 for McDermott. Thanks for playing, bud. Our next
Final
termite,
3 nominees of the night.
Jean-Gabriel Pajot, JGP, in the builder category. Do we have any votes for Jean-Gabriel Pajot?
I got him as a 2.
I don't. I wish I had him. I mean,
I have him also for 2, so that gives him 2
Yeah,
total points.
for him.
He's got 2 second team votes. After JG Pajot, our boy Wi-Fi, Arbor Jacquai. Arbor Xhekaj in the builder category. How many votes for Arbor Xhekaj? Any votes for Arbor Xhekaj?
I think he's at the 100-game mark, but this is where I came down for England and me, and I think Arbor, Lumber, Xhekaj, second teamer.
You know, this is where my final first place vote comes in. I have him as a first teamer. I know he's young, but he's the up and comer in my mind. And the crankshaft Douglas Murray comp is just too good for me to overlook.
So
I know what he can become.
So that's a first team vote from Arm and a second team vote for Jack.
Yep.
So that's over for me, and I just think maybe I'm a little biased because of the jersey he wears, but it's a little bit of a games played issue.
I hear you.
We haven't seen him play
I
in a
just
while.
see the potential, you know.
It's fair.
Our last nominee, I don't know if there's going to be any votes for this guy, but it's Nikita Zaitsev. Any votes for Nikita Zaitsev?
Not available.
Now we're going to
Terrible
tally
pick
him
by
up.
me
We're going
last
to tally him up. All right, so we only have, let's see, we have one,
We have a
two,
first team.
3. We have 4 perfect scores. So immediately awarded to the first team All-Termite, we have Brandon Tanev,
Fuck yeah.
Welcome.
Cal Clutterbuck,
Welcome.
Ryan Lomberg,
Welcome.
Liam Big Tuna O'Brien.
Welcome.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations on being the first ever unanimous first team All-Termites.
Fitting.
Earned. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears going into that.
So
one.
where we got
Rounding out our first team All-Termite, Tanner Jeannot.
Tanner. Welcome.
Welcome, Tanner.
Welcome.
All right. So we've got the first team. Now, taking a look at our second team
Here's where
All-Termite.
things get a little closer.
Very
A little tighter.
dense. Let's just see.
I think
All right. So we actually have a clear-cut 5 choices. Would you look at that?
There we go.
All right. So we'll work our way down based on points and voting. Welcome to the second team All-Termite, Connor Clifton.
Yeah, Connor Clifton.
welcome.
Cliffy Hawk.
He
Welcome.
could sub in, play
He's
fifth
a guy who could be
defenseman.
up and down. He could
He
be
could
up
be
and
the
down.
fifth man, you know, if he
Yep.
needs a call up.
Connor Clifton, welcome aboard.
Welcome.
In order of points received by the Termite Writers Association of North America. Welcome to the second team All-Termite, Nick Delorier.
Welcome.
Yeah,
Welcome.
Deloria.
Welcome.
Big boy.
Welcome.
He might build the cabin that we eat.
Don't even know, but I'm
Feeds
yes,
the,
I'm
feeds
with
the
it.
mound. Feeds the mound.
I'm with it. The mound, yeah, you got
Mound's got to eat sometime.
mound's got to eat. Welcome to the second team All-Termite, Arbor Xhekaj.
Arbor.
Wi-Fi.
Arbor. Welcome.
Time to prove it, dude.
This is. I've got
seen it
Arbor.
in a short
I've got
stint,
Arbor
but-
as our number one prospect. Is how I basically look at it
Well,
right
he's
now.
already a second team All-Termite. So, anyway, our remaining 2 spots, both
dogfight.
receiving 2 total votes. Just in order of chronology, we're gonna go see him tonight. Brandon Duhaime.
Welcome. 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 There's a guy that can chuck him. Welcome.
Duhaime, a legit, I'd say,
Andy Dufresne.
middleweight.
Dufresne.
Brandon Duhaime.
Duhaime. That's right. That's right.
Finally, Jean-Gabriel Pajot.
Welcome. Welcome.
Peugeot,
Welcome.
Peugeot,
Welcome.
Peugeot.
My list was perfect. Like I
You got everyone on the team?
everyone on the
Every
team.
single person on the team.
Wow.
Where's your list? Wow. Just trying to see. I think there weren't really any misses on the first team. Somebody had Jeannot on the second team. Is that you, Arm?
I did too as well.
No, you had him first team.
Nope. Look at my last on the second team right there.
Well, nobody had 4 points. So if Tanner only had,
So if
only
you
had
said
4
first
points,
team.
he's still on.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, I
You
didn't.
did. You did.
Oh,
You
I
did.
meant second. He's on my second team.
Who was missing from your first team then?
I had Big Tuna, Clutterbuck, Jeannot, Tanev, and Lomberg.
Jack, you don't really get it, do you?
You said Jeannot was
You
on
just
your
don't
first
get
team.
it.
Yeah. Jeannot made the first team.
No, Jeannot made the second team, dude.
What is going
No,
on?
he was the last pick of the first team, no?
No, he was the last pick of the second team, bro.
Tanner
No,
Jeannot.
Jeannot's on the first team.
Jeannot
Jeannot
was
is
on the-
first team. Jeannot
Yeah,
is first
what are
team.
we talking about?
You
I
just said you didn't have Jeannot as a first team.
Yes, I did. We'll go back to the tapes. We'll go back to
Yeah,
Toronto.
we
We'll
will.
go to Toronto. We'll go to Toronto.
Hold
this
on,
one.
hold on.
There's no confusion here. He
But
just
I
said
just
something.
I just want the voting record to show whether Jeannot received 2 or 1 points from Jack, he still would have been. He still would have
Unless
been.
somebody
the exact
else
same
got his
spot.
2.
No,
I gave him 2.
He gave him 2 though. He just said something crazy right now.
All right, whatever. Doesn't matter.
It's fine. The voting's good.
It does matter.
The voting's good. The
Voting's good. The teams are made. First team All-American, All-Termite, Big Tuna, Cal Clutterbuck, Danner Jeannot, Brandon Danev, Ryan Lomberg. That's your first team All-Termite. Second team All-Termite, not in order, but Clifton, Jacques, Delorier, Duhaime, and Bajot.
There it is. We finally did it.
Adjustments will be made after our next 50 episodes. Once we hit the 100 mark, will be the second annual Slotshotpodcast Termite Show. Will be a fun one. Will be a doozy. Rusty, I think, is on the clock for next week after coming out of the All-Star, or the Termite break, I should say.
I've already got my pick.
We know you do. We're not firing tonight.
Right.
We're holding it, and we'll have a nice little Instagram post for our All-Termite first and second teamers. Boys, what an excellent little Termite show. Hard work pays off. And you love to see it. And you love to hear it. So it's fun to have the Termite show commence, and we're glad you guys could tune in for it. Our final topic of the night, Saturday picks. We took a break last week as there was no Saturday games with the All-Star break. Last Saturday picks that we had, Armdog and Ross took an L in the L column. Unfortunately for you guys, but fortunately for me, I did take a win. So the records are as followed: 9-6 for Armdog and Rusty. Rusty will pick first as he's been the most recent leader, and then 8-7 for myself.
It's tight.
Rusty, a 1-game race, a fun race. Let's try and get some money in our listeners' pockets by putting a good parlay together. Who's your first Saturday picks coming out of the All-Star break?
I'm not going to lie. I was expecting a little loose change today, so just give me a second here. Let's see. Who's playing Saturday?
Dun, dun, dun,
Oilers
dun,
Kings is the
dun,
late game,
dun,
too.
Dun, 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 dun.
Two teams that I've watched recently. I'm pretty sure neither has a back-to-back. Nobody's playing Friday. That's right. Division rivals in the Metro. I'm taking the Carolina Hurricanes at home to defeat the New Jersey Devils. Simply put, it's structure versus looseness. I'm going with structure. Neither team has a goalie, so it's a little bit of a wild card, but it's mildly chalky, but I don't know.
One more time.
The Devils were dumb enough to let Miles Wood go, so they don't deserve the benefit of the doubt. Carolina over New Jersey, at Carolina in Raleigh.
Yeah, I like it. A little chalky, but I like it. Hate the Jersey matchup.
Terrible Jersey
matchup.
Just one of the worst in the league. But
I mean, then you got
well, no, there's nothing worse. There's nothing worse than like a Calgary Detroit.
Yeah, but both good jerseys.
Correct
at least.
on their own, but the matchup
I hear
is
you. I hear
terrible.
you.
a lot of red. Armdog with the second pick for Saturday picks.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know where I'm going here, don't you? Don't you know? Don't you know?
Just a huge mistake.
It's a matinee.
You betcha.
But the Wings are on like a 10-game off thing. We're having our big break, and we're returning
Rest
home.
versus rust.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're telling me you're about to pick Detroit.
Oh, yeah, you heard that.
Coming off of a 10-game, no-game zone.
Yep.
Hosting one of the best teams in the league on a matinee.
Yes.
Thank you.
It was a lot, dude. It was just
You've given me criticism. Come on, man.
That's a joke, dude.
It is a joke. It's almost as big of a joke as Blues Sabres at 12 o'clock on ABC.
The only thing going for that is what, West Coast team playing early?
And Kane coming
West Coast
back.
team playing early. Kane's back. We're gonna be rested, ready to
rested
go.
usually sucks in hockey. Like
Not this time though.
You are so
Not
full
this
of shit.
time. Not this time.
You're really riding. All right, well, whatever.
I'm riding the Wings, dude.
All right, here we go.
Wild.
You know my Wings picks usually end up working.
Oh, okay. What do you got, Jack?
They do.
What do you got?
I'm going to take the Seattle Kraken to come into Philadelphia. Philadelphia, a little bit of a question mark now in net. This is going to be a 6 p.m. start in Philadelphia, but I got the Crack Attack coming in and beating the Philadelphia Flyers. I ain't no arm dog taking his.
I like it.
Wings.
You know, I
have
actually
some
love
juice.
this
That
pick.
should have
Sif.
some
Sif,
juice.
this is maybe my favorite pick of yours throughout the whole year.
Yeah.
This is my favorite one. I love it.
Thank you.
I think that could be.
appreciate that.
You might be deviating from Chalk Monster, Sif, and I appreciate that.
Versus you taking just a super matchup, but I appreciate that, buddy.
Well, I'm gonna make us money.
Final thoughts on the episode, boys. We're closing her up. We're closing her on down.
One thing we didn't talk about, but I think was hilarious. Bublé on shrooms at the All-Star game.
Unbelievable.
Just pretty iconic move from the guy. And to just own it without anyone asking about it or suspecting anything. I don't know if I've ever seen a wilder PR move. I mean, it's the NHL, so it's not like it's going to hurt him that much. But pretty crazy move. Love it.
He's on 3 fantasy hockey teams. Who cares? Then
Well, no, he somehow did not get a first-round pick in one of the
Yeah,
leagues
that
either.
makes no sense.
That
makes sense.
we need to quiz that one more as well.
But then he goes on to say, "Oh yeah, my friend gave me a chocolate bar that was supposed to be microdosing, and I feel like I'm in
Biz.
I feel
right?
like I'm in Blades of Glory." Interesting comment. Will Arnett just kept rolling with it, but Frege and Jeff Merrick loved it.
Well,
surprised by
what
that.
I love too is like the first video I saw, you get to see the whole media room. Like they're in the shot for some reason. It's not like a close up of him. It's like a video of the whole media room reacting to Bublé just like announcing he's tripping his ass off during
Did
the
he
All-Star
announce
game.
that he was tripping his ass off while he was tripping his ass off?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. That makes it reasonable. I thought it was like the next day he said it, and I was like,
No.
dude,
No,
why?
no, this was
is
live
the night of the
postgame.
skills.
Got it.
Night of
Got
the
it.
skills. Night of
He
the
was just
skills.
kind of like, he was like coming to grips with it, but still probably a little shroomy and just like vibing.
Hey,
Yeah.
Justin Bieber, first performance in 2 years at the All-Star game. It's exciting stuff.
Yeah, NHL's got some big stars out there.
Tate McRae. Apparently she's with Kid Leroy, though. I don't love that.
I had to Google who Tate McRae is. I don't even know who she is, but she's a big deal.
She's a
She's
Flames
big deal.
fan.
Big, apparently a frequent visitor of the Saddle Dome.
Yeah.
Bet you could write us out.
Final thoughts, Rusty.
Just gave him.
Well, we appreciate you guys tuning into the first annual All-Termite nominee and now announcement of the All-Termite team, first and second. We appreciate it. Historic stuff here on the Slotshot Podcast.
You know what, Jack? Final thought. Honestly, it's the worst day in anyone's career when they need to make cuts from a team.
It's a tough day.
Just want to give a shout out to all the termites out there that earned their nominations.
Yeah.
There can only be 10. Obviously, only 5 on that coveted first team.
Mm-hmm.
I think what I'm thinking is the first team will remain off limits for our next round of voting, and the second team, you could get replaced. Well, something like that.
Oh,
I think
they're
guys
gonna
who
go down.
guys who got cut this time, like they'll probably listen to the pod.
Well, the
And
question
this is extra motivation. If they come back and prove
are
themselves,
they still nominees?
Like, are they skating really hard for icing calls that don't go their way, tripping over themselves and going headfirst into the boards? How many times this season are they doing that?
Boys, how do we
Double those numbers and you'll be right up to first.
how do we not have Radko on this list? That one escaped us a little bit.
There are a lot of guys that escaped us. I've got a whole
I
list
know.
of guys.
But I don't think we can punish guys for being nominated.
No, but are they now free reign to be nominated again? Or are
We'll
they?
have to
Yes,
discuss.
yes.
So they're
I
free
think
agents.
so.
So
I
you
think
think they're
so.
let go as free agents? Contracts terminated.
It's something that we'll have to work out,
We'll
but
discuss.
Details to be determined.
I don't think we're ready to have 2-time.
Well,
termites
we've got our first all-termite team. You can never untouch that. You can never change that. The second team, that's always going to change, but the first team all-termite ever on the Slotshot Podcast as we hit the 50 mark. We appreciate all you listeners tuning in to the 50 episodes, 50 strong of Slotshot Podcast, and we're hopeful for another 50 more strong and more. But we appreciate you guys tuning in. If you like what we've been doing, feel free to hit that like and subscribe button directly below the video. If you like our audio versions of this, we're on Spotify, Apple Music, Google, whatever you got, whatever you listen to, we're there. You can find us. Give us a shout. If you want to go follow the boys, go follow Ross at Rusty Pedroia. Go follow Armdog at Armdog_SS. Give me a follow at Siffyman. Ross, where can you find us at our mailbag?
Slotshotpodcast@gmail.com.
Too many emails to touch this week. Too many emails to touch.
Lot of
We'll get there.
sponsors quacking.
We'll get
Lot
there.
of
We got some
sponsors
making up
quacking.
to do, but we'll see. This week's episode brought to you by Termex, as we said. Another phenomenal episode. We'll catch you guys next week for another full week of hockey as Loose Change returns. Saturday Picks gets hotter. New fresh set of termites to be nominated.
What date is the trade deadline? Is it mid-March or is it
I feel like it's mid-March, but I have no idea.
the Ides of March?
March 8th.
March 8th. All right.
I think it's like a 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central type thing.
We're a month out.
Or a month out. Maybe we'll have a little bit of a podcast for the deadline show as we've seen, but we'll see. Fun happenings around the Slotshot Podcast. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll catch you guys next week.